Hello, Jamie from Inky and Scrappy, sharing with you today a real-time tutorial on how to create a shaker style card with mostly die cuts. I am doing this one for a card class that I'm doing locally, so everything in those kits will be all cut and ready to go. If I have leftovers, I will be putting them up for sale on my Etsy store, so you can check it out, but we'll see how it does. We're not for certain. So this is my prototype. It does not have any ink blending on it. We are going to complete it from start to finish today and add that ink blending in. So I figured I would share it with you. I will have everything listed and linked that I have available on my blog, or everything listed on my blog that I used today for the creation of this. So if you want to follow along in real time, you are more than welcome to stop the video, go check out the blog post, get all your die cuts ready, and go from there. If you don't have something that's on the list, don't worry about it. Figure out something that works that would be comparable. The cinnamon sticks here, if you don't have that particular die from Simon Says Stamp, it's actually the heart, the intertwined heart, like heart candy cane one. If you don't have that one, a different candy cane die would work fine for that, or just a strip of striped paper that would go with it would be good. The frosting, I guess it's actually whipped, but it's actually the frosting from the cupcake from Fawn. The mug is from Fawn as well, so it's both the inside out stitched mug and then the stitched mug frame. So that's how we create that piece. The spoon comes in one of those two mug sets. I don't remember which one. This is actually just a oval, a scalped oval from Spellbinders. It's super old because I've had it forever. I just cut it in half. And the leaf here is actually only one of the dies from MFT's, I think it's like a detailed leaf one, but it's actually just this die cut apart in specific locations. You don't need that one. Anything that's a greenery or a filler, like a flower, something that's got leaves that's going to fill in your background to make your mug look full. You won't have to use, I'm using Simple Stories Autumn. It's an autumn paper pack. I will have that one listed as well. If it's not available, don't worry about it. Use what you have on hand. And so the little pumpkins, I got, it was with a die set from Amazon, so I have no clue what company it's from, if you can even get it anymore. Don't worry about it. If you have a similar sized pumpkin, would work great for that, or candy corn would work in there too. Something that's fall themed, that would be work, and it looks beautiful without the pumpkins in there as well. Sprinkle some more bigger hearts in there. In those types of colors would be great. So those are the basics of what I used, and then the little heart sprinkles come from Trinity Stamps, which those are just clay bits. And I created my own shaker mix. It's just seed beads, some brown sequin mix, some glitter, and then some rock candy glitter that I hand colored with latte I think I did latte alcohol ink. Any brown alcohol ink would work to color your glitter, your rock candy glitter, that brown tone. So that was what I came up with for my glitter sequence mix. This, you don't have to use it all for your shaker, at least if you are in class, because I have no clue if that's a good amount or not a good amount at this time. I just made sure everyone had enough. So I will get started and you can follow along. I also cut my shaker from a piece of craft foam. So I actually added double-sided adhesive onto both sides of it. So we can just pop this out, and then we will use, and I'm going to actually leave it in until I have my thing on top so it's easier to line up, because otherwise it kind of gets a little flimsier. If you are at home, you might want to go with a double layer. So have a look at the supply sheet and we will go from there. You will need acetate. That's the only other really big specialty you're going to need for the card as a whole. I am going to be using some Distress inks today. I'm going to use antique linen for my blending on most of the things today. I might pull in some vintage photo or walnut stain. I think we'll do walnut stain. We'll see how walnut stain kind of has a green tone, so that's why I'm thinking vintage photo might be the better option there. And we will go from there. If your paper is different colors, feel free to adjust your tones accordingly. So I'm going to start by ink blending the lighter tone things, just because if I decide to switch to a darker tone, I want to make sure that my brush isn't going to be contaminated with the darker tone when I need to go back to my lighter tones. So I'm going to start with this one, and we're just going to load up the blending brush here and then tap it off just a little bit. And you can do this on your mat if you don't have a scrap piece of paper. I'm just going to do it on here so you can see it a little bit better. I don't know if it helps or not. So, and I just want to go with a really light hand all the way around the outside. It's just going to tone it a very little bit. And I'm going to add some to the top. You don't really have to worry about the middle because your mug is actually going to sit there. And then for my foam here, or whip, I'm going to do the same thing. And you could go in and add to each of these if you have paper to put in between there and you want to add some more interest to it. It's going to be fairly covered, so I'm not too worried about that today. And the bottoms are going to be tucked in that mug, so should be good. And you can add ink to your mug frame here if you want. If you don't want to, you don't have to. I think I'm probably just going to go lightly around the corners, and we might end up going to a darker blend. Being that I am done with all of my light images or my cream colored images, I guess they're not images, they're die cuts. I'm going to come in with my brown here and then just lightly go more on the concentrating on the corners of the mug, maybe the bottom of the mug because you're going to have shadow there. And then where the handle hits the mug on the top corner. And I think that's good. It doesn't have a whole lot of color variation, but there is a little bit that it picks up. I don't think anything else, unless you want to do some ink blending on your images. And all of these are going to have to get weeded. I did not weed out anything beforehand. So for video purposes, I will probably stop the video to weed them out, or just cut them out of the video to save some time. So if you'd like to weed all of your images beforehand, that would be wonderful fine. Okay, for the most part, I think I have everything inked that I want inked. And then we will start with assembling the mug. So we have a piece of acetate here, and to start with the acetate, we're actually going to take off that outside strip of protectant on that adhesive sheet. And one of the things I figured out when I did one of my last cards was it's way easier. So if you have a scissors, or you should have a scissors, is to actually just cut off that acetate handle. You don't need the acetate handle. It's going to make lining this up a whole lot easier. And you can add a bead of glue, whoops, all the way around this. If you do not have double-sided adhesive and you did not die cut it, you can use foam tape to go around the outside of your mug, which would be this piece here. But you're going to want to put your acetate on it, on top of this first. So do double-sided adhesive, place your acetate on it, and then put another layer of either double-sided adhesive if you're doing it this way, or with a pre-cut foam, or you can use multiple layers of die cuts to create that well, or your double-sided adhesive. Whoops, let's not do that one. Okay, so we're going to line this up here. And then we're going to squish that down. And we're going to pop out that foam piece here in just a second. I will have that secured on there. And then for this piece, we can go in with either a double-sided adhesive, glue will be fine. I'm just going to do a couple of spots of tape runner here. That's not going to need tape runner. And then I'm just going to add a very, very thin line of glue around the outside here. I just like to make sure it's going to stay together. It's probably overkill, but score tape would be a good one to use around the outside as well. I'm just going to pop that on. And then you'll see I didn't get it perfect. That's fine. Just with my acrylic on there. So I'm just going to trim that off just a teeny tiny bit. And then we can pop out that piece there and this back piece here. And then we have our mug shaker well put together. And then we're going to use this later for adding double-sided adhesive, like foam adhesive. So either double-sided adhesive or squares. Okay, so this part is on, ready to go. We are going to actually cut off this back piece here. I've found that it's just easier to put together the shaker part without trying to have to line up that handle. So this is just going to be scrap. You can throw it away. So when we take this piece off, this is still going to be sticky here. So if you can try to tear it off and not get it, otherwise it's just going to be sticky and we're going to have to recover it once we get it off. So I'm thinking if we just peel back and stop there and then cut it, we should be good. We'll see if it works. So to do the shaker elements, if you have your shaker pieces in the bag, I would just cut the corner off and then make yourself a pile. If you have to make your mix, I would just do about, so I use a wooden spoon to measure mine out. It's just a little wooden spoon to put them in the middle. The other thing that you can use would be something like this that has a funnel to put them in the middle. The goal is to get them all in the middle of your thing so you don't have anything on the outside that is going to stick once your adhesive is on there. And you can push it in once you get it on there. I like to make less of a mess as opposed to more of a mess, you know, because yeah, things roll everywhere. And I'm not going to put all of this in there because it's a little heavy on the mix here. And so we're just going to push in whatever might have rolled out. Those beads like to move a little bit. And then I'm just going to flatten it a wee little bit so it's not rounded and bulky. The other thing I like to do is add glue on the outside. It gives it a little bit of wiggle room and it helps to seal in, especially if you're using a double-sided adhesive foam tape. If you have any little spots that might not be fully, you know, because sometimes where you connect it can be a little open. This will help to seal that in. So let's see if I can do this on camera. just gonna come in here and snip and snip. That way I don't have that sticky piece hanging out because I don't need it to be sticky there just quite yet. And then we're just going to line this up. I'm going to try to do this without putting my head over the top. And see how much, yeah, I didn't get it all lined up perfect, but that's fine. I didn't have to worry about this piece at all lining up, which probably saves a little bit more time. And then I'm just going to cut off the little bit that kind of overlapped here. The main portion was to make sure that you get it all the way sealed and around it. So if you're not perfectly on top, you'll be okay. As long as you have it sealed in a way that seals up the rest of it. Alright, so now that we have this part done, let's start on our base piece. So paper has two sides, pick your side. Some of them had, I think, like just a wood grain one, but this one, because it's kind of got that cut off, I'm going to put it here. If there was something cute on there, I might have used this side. It's all personal preference and taste. So to start with this one, I'm just going to take the liquid adhesive, and to do liquid adhesive without making it bubble on your card base or your paper, use it very sparingly so you can barely see. Let's see if it'll focus in here. Like, it's very, very little. There's very little there. And so we're going to put this towards the bottom part here. And then trying to get it centered. With liquid adhesive, you have a little bit of wiggle room to move it back and forth a little bit. So we've got that on there. And then that will come later. And then, so I'm not going to put my mug on there quite yet. I kind of want to build onto my mug and then go from there. So to build onto my mug, I'm going to actually flip it over and I'm going to add a line of adhesive here, or liquid glue. And then I'm going to start with my whipped. So I'm just going to put that on the top edge, and then I'm going to put this one on the other top. So you can just do one whip if you don't like extra whip. I like extra whip when I have whip, because if I'm going to kill my diet, let's do it well. So there are both of those. And then I'm just going to see how, when we come to this piece, adding this will be the last piece we add in. And then also your cinnamon sticks. I think that's what I decided to call them, was cinnamon sticks. That's what my initial thought was like a cinnamon stick, or is it a purette? I don't know. Whatever those round circular cookies are that kind of have that diagonal roll to them would be cute. So this was the thought behind using the candy cane. So you don't need to have this one. We are going to weed this one. Oh, and look at that. It was a double cut. So I'm just going to weed out all of the things. And then to put this one together, I didn't cut a full one. I actually cut the inside. So if you see here, I cut the inside from the inside of my stitched mug. I was just trying to use my paper to the smartest and, you know, use the scraps up, because otherwise it wouldn't have gotten used. It probably would have gotten thrown or put in my scrap bin. Paper has gotten super expensive and hard to find. There are certain colors that you can't currently get because they aren't in stock, and they don't know when they're coming back in stock. It's such a strange thing to not be able to get, right? The paper. And then just a little bit of glue on the back. I don't have my glasses on today, so my lining up eyes aren't very good. At least that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I forgot that I didn't have my glasses on. It doesn't have to be perfect. We just want to line it up on there. So the orange is on the brown. And then for class, I have already done, I'm going to let that dry just a little bit before I cut it. I'm going to weed these. And you can either weed them if you want, or you can leave them whole with a little, just make sure if you are going to leave all of the little weeded pieces in there on the little pumpkin, to make sure that you put adhesive on all of it so they don't fall out later on. I have already added the toppers to mine before I kitted them, because those are such small little pieces there that I didn't want them to get lost, because that happens frequently. So I was trying to save face on that one. So for the little, I can't think of the name, for the little candy canes, oh, it's gonna be a good one, right? For the little candy canes, I'm just gonna snip them off and separate them. So for this piece, I wanna, because this one is going to be on my top piece here, I just wanna make sure that I kind of follow that curve to the round there. And then I will do that on the other one as well. Wow, I was off on that one today. It's what you get when you're videoing and you can't put your head right in there. And I'm not worried about the other end being perfect. It's gonna get tucked in there, so it doesn't have to be perfect. So on this one, so we know this one's gonna be down, and you can put these wherever you want in here. I'm just gonna follow my example. So I'm just gonna tuck this one in and behind and kind of have it sticking out. And then we will pop that on. Just a little bit of glue on the back. You can glue it down here if you wanted to, but you don't need to. It's not necessary. And then for this one, I'm just gonna put this one up a little bit further and behind, but because I'm going to glue this part onto the back, I will put the glue there, and then I'm just going to tuck this in here. I liked the look of them both on one side. You could switch it up and you can have it sticking out a little bit there if you want, you know, adjust accordingly. And then double check to make sure that it's not too high on your card. So if it's too high, you're going to have to go way down here. But you want some height because it'll fill out your card front, if you know what I mean. Otherwise, you're going to have open space. But you also have the option of putting your sentiment up on top. I've already pre-sentimented, I guess, pre-stamped all the sentiments for the card class. If they did not want the Happy Fall one, I also have some spares, and I think the other one, I did a different option in the other kits. I don't remember. I have extra pieces that if they don't like the Happy Fall, they can do a Thanks a Latte or something like that. I don't recall because I kitted them a while ago. And so I'm going to wait with my pumpkins just because I don't know for sure how I'm going to want them on top there. But I'm going to weed out these ones. And you don't have to weed these out if you like that solid look instead. I like the visual interest of all of the little holes and different shapes and patterns there. Okay, let's clean up my mess here a little bit. Push all of those things off to the side. And I should probably round out my heart so I don't misplace them. I'm awesome at doing those types of things. Misplacing stuff. So for these ones, we're going to snip it in a few spots. So we're going to snip this one here. So you have your 3 leaf cluster up above there. And I like to make sure when I'm snipping these apart that I kind of make sure that the leaf that's going to get left behind, because we're going to use that in a different spot, looks alright. So I'm just going to kind of round that, make sure that it's going to look okay there. And then this one we're actually using that whole leaf cluster there. So I'm just gonna follow that line there. So then we have our 1 piece, 2 pieces, and this one you can either do, you can leave those 2. I didn't like how this one looked on that one, and I'm actually going to cut all of these apart. So they're all individual style leaves. And that way I can fill in wherever I feel might need a little bit of fill in. And then that stem is just excess that can get thrown away. So these I like to kind of know where my card is, or where my mug is going to sit on my card before I add them. And you might decide that it needs a little bit more here, there, or the other spot. And so don't be afraid to move those around. And so I decided to do 3 different pumpkins just because I liked the color variation, and the lighter yellow ties in my butterflies from the mug background. And then the teal, of course, is in that spot there. And you can work these in however far you want them in or out. I like to tuck behind my other one so it gives that illusion of depth and dimension in there. And if you do not recap your glue, it might dry and you might have to pick off the top, because I am notorious for not recapping my little glue. And I probably should make sure that I don't want that green one. I want that green one to go in the top one. So I'm going to stick that one in there before I stick my orange one all the way down here. I think I want it up there again. It'd be cute on your little napkin too, but I think we're going to stick that one there. And then we're just going to put a little glue there to get that one to stick. There we go. And then the little yellow one is going to tuck in here. I think I like that one maybe out of that one. I'm just going to tuck this one under the mug and not in the bubble. Maybe not. I don't know. Yeah, we'll go there. So now I have the basis of my decorations on the mug, and that piece there. So I want to leave room for my spoon, and you can either put your spoon this way, you can put it this way, however you want to do it. For this one I'm thinking I might actually lay it flat, just to give me a little bit of a variation from that one. But you can go up there, and if you don't want it there, you could definitely tuck it inside your mug as well. It's an option. So if you want something bright and bold sticking up there, you could definitely add it to the top of your mug there. I'll probably leave room on the bottom for it. So I'm just going to lay that there for a visual reminder that I want to tuck it underneath this time. I don't know if I like it there or not. I kind of like it at the angle, but we'll see. Maybe more of an angle this time, or less. I don't know. It's all good, right? Okay. So for this one, I'm going to actually glue my mug on. Because I want to tuck those leaves in where I think it's going to need it. So if you look at this one, I'm just going to add a little strip of glue to each of those so I can still tuck it in behind. And then I'm just going to put glue around the mug bottom. I can always lift that top piece back up to tuck and then finish with the final gluing in there. And let's see. So we're going to go right here. And then kind of hold those down for just a little bit to make sure they stay. And then we're just going to tuck in our leaves. I'm not going to glue anything just quite yet. I want to make sure that everything ends up where I want it to be. So this would have been what the original one looked like, and maybe, you know, you want to switch it from that one. This one I think I want to move it down a little bit more. Last. So I'm just going to add some glue to this. Double-sided tweezers comes in handy if you have a hard time with little things. And another trick, so you don't have glue ooze out, if that's something you're afraid of, is to stick your fine detail on, like just tap it on another piece of paper. You're still going to have wet glue behind it. You want to do this quickly, and then you can tuck it in there, and you're not going to get the glue ooze that you might otherwise get. And then I'm just going to stick that down. You might have to hold it a little bit to get it to stay. And at this point, I can go in and add a little bit more glue to those if they didn't stick. I'm going to add a little bit behind this one since I'm done with that side. And I think those ones are all down good. So let's go in and add. Oh, I kind of like the solid one in there. So let's go with that solid one. Don't you love when you just had it and it hides itself under something? I mean, I pushed it there, but... So now all that is left is to add in that spoon. And for this, we're going to add some double-sided adhesive. So I'm going to need some double-sided adhesive. It wants to run away from me today. So if this one is going to be angled, we're going to want a little bit here and a little bit there. So I can actually put it on that corner. The inside of the handle is going to work great for this one. We'll just make it match that inside of the spoon there. And stick it. And then we're going to take that mug insert and just kind of cut off a little bit here to do on the top. And then we will remove the adhesive backs for this one, and you can add a little bit of adhesive where it's gonna sit over the top of our shaker piece. And it just adds a bright pop of that copper tone. And then for the sentiment to finish this one up, we can do it here, we can do it there, we can you know, up on top if that's where you choose. I am going to follow my example and put it in the center, a little bit of liquid adhesive, and be careful not to drop it on your acetate or you will get an adhesive clot. This is going to take a little bit more time to dry. So we have that part done. I cut all of my own cardstock bases. I picked up a cream extra heavyweight cardstock from, this one's from Hobby Lobby. They were, I think they were half off or buy one get one 40% off or something like that when I picked it up. So it's a good deal, 110 pound cardstock. You want to look at your GMSs. If it's a higher, you know, you want like a 300 GMS, it's going to be a thicker, higher quality cardstock. That's why I make my own card bases. I have a hard time finding ones that are that heavy duty, sturdy. The only issue is I'm not always spot on with cutting. So you'll see that this is just a little off on the one. It's really not going to matter. We just cut off the extra if that's what we need. So I'm going to fold this in half. You can either use your finger or a scoring type tool if you have it to crease that fold a little bit better. And then we are just going to add this one to, see, I'm off just a teeny tiny little bit. So I'm going to run this one to the paper trimmer after I put on the card front. So for the card front, you can use double-sided adhesive tape or you can use glue. And you want to keep this fairly thin because you don't want your paper to buckle. And that's where that super fine tip comes in handy because you really have a harder time getting out way more than you need, if that makes sense. At least for me, it seems to work well. And then I like to line it up in one corner and then the bottom half of that corner and the top. And with liquid adhesive, you have a little bit more wiggle room. So if you line it up on the top corner and then the top on top, because the fold isn't going to be able to get cut off, and then go from there on your other side, your extra will either be right here or right here if you're not spot on. So I will take it off and cut it with my guillotine cutter. You can also take a scissors and trim off if it's just a little off yourself. And then we will add a sentiment to the inside. I don't know how that one didn't get glued down, but so now that I have it on my card base, we can add our embellishments. You can add them beforehand. It just sometimes lays flatter if you do it after. And I'm just going to pick 3 spots that I think need filling in. And they don't have to all be on the same place they were before. And for this, I'm going to use a picker tool. It's just easier for me to place them. I'm using the Studio Katia embellishment wand, but you can pick these up on Amazon for way cheaper than you can from any of the craft style shops. Same thing, works just as well. I actually have some and I like them as well. So I'm just gonna trim that off, and then what are we doing for an inside sentiment? I have a couple of options available, so we will check those out and then we will get back to you. For class, we're probably going to be using the You're the Pumpkin Spice in my latte because I will already have that set up in one of my Misties for class. But for today, I am going to pull in the Magic Messages set. I think this is the original one. Yep, the original Magic Messages set, and I'm going to do I'm lucky to have you, have a friend like you, or thank you so much. Sending big hugs would work. Happy birthday would work. Whatever you want for the inside, you can leave it blank. You make me smile. And we're going to go old school and use the stamping block today. So either a stamping block, if you have a Misty, probably want to stamp it before you put the card front on. Everyone's different on that one. I like living life dangerously. And I'm going to use my Mementos. I don't know if I want to use Mementos today or... You don't want to use Distress ink to stamp. Distress oxides work fine for stamping. Well, let's try the Mementos Espresso Truffle. I don't know how juicy this pad is. For best stamping, a juicy ink pad is your best bet, especially when you're gonna freehand it. I guess I used to always freehand it, and this one is a new stamp. So I'm gonna stamp this once first, just to make sure that my stamp is conditioned. And so you see how I get the funny, there's a funny pattern on it, it's not complete. So I'm just going to do it one more time to make sure that I get a good impression. And see how the second the second stamp with it is a lot better than the first one was with it. It's just because my stamp wasn't conditioned before I started. So, and this one, if I mess it up, I can always do something over the top, right? It's all good. So I'm going to line that up in the center, and then I'm just going to press and hold it for just a second. It allows that ink to seep in a little bit better, and of course, because I have inky fingers, I got ink on the inside of my card. Such is life. I'll fix that later. So keep in mind, inky fingers lead to smudges on the inside of your card, and really once I sign my name you won't see it anyways. But I can add a coffee mug image or something on the bottom to cover that up. And so there is the finished, it didn't cut straight. Okay, there we go. So there is the finished card product for today. And yes, I will probably shake forever. I'm okay with the amount of shaky bits in there. Could have had a little less, but I like more. Glitter's good, and this one as well this one has just a few less, and you get more of that shake to it, I think. So is it not coming in? Okay, so you can see the difference by adding that ink blending in there. It just has a little bit richer tone to it. Either is fine, so if you didn't want to do the ink blending or you don't have the inks or the blending brush, it's fine, you don't need to add it. It does add just a little bit more to your finished card. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed me talking for an extended period of time. So if you have any questions, please shoot me a message down below. I would be happy to answer anything you have questions on. I'll see if I can find an answer for you if I don't know it. So have a good one, and thanks so much for joining me.